welcome to my video. This video I'm going to be talking about how I said that, I'm fed up with Linux and I'm going to stick with Windows and Linux sucks. Right after I was thinking, well, I'm in a lot of subreddit, right? Like on Reddit, I'm in a lot of Linux subreddits, what I meant to say. I'm in a lot of Linux subreddit because I love open source operating systems. I just love systems that are open source and you can tinker with it and you can do all kinds of stuff with it. And Linux has been one of my favorite systems to play around with for many years, and I love Linux. Linux is like my sandbox, I love playing around with Linux a lot, and I'm a big fan of Linux. And when I say Linux sucks, and people unsub my channel, and they get offended by it, it's basically because I want Linux to be improved. Because Linux has so much potential to be so much better. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It's actually a really good system. I use it a lot. I can't live without Linux. I will keep my mini PC. I probably will put Fedora on it as well, but it will also have Windows. This system has Windows as well still. I have two NVMe disks on the system. They're both Evo, Samsung Evo 970, which both are 1 terabyte each. Then I got two 512 gigabytes, 212 gigabytes on my gaming PC, which I don't know why I have lower storage. Because when I built this system, I just built it. But I have two 512 gigabyte Evo 970 as well, but they're not a terabyte. They're 512 gigabytes each, which is still pretty good. It's just that I should have bigger storage in the system, but I don't like to have a lot of games installed, and plus I don't have any Linux on the system. I only use Windows on the system, so like the other NVMe disk, it can also be used for games and other stuff like music and stuff like that. So this system here that you see has Windows as well. Like the system I had earlier, like that I was using with Windows. This is the same system, but I'm using it. I also have Fedora 41 workstation installed on the system. I do have two 1 terabyte discs on my mini PC as well. I have an SSD and I have an NVMe disk. The NVMe disk has Windows 11, but that mini PC only has license for Windows Home Edition. Even though I want to put professional, it just keeps it puts the Home Edition because it has a built-in key for Windows, so it just keeps giving me Home Edition. But I don't really care. Windows 11 is Windows 11. Though I'm gonna probably just wipe out Windows and put Fedora 41 because I don't really need Windows. The main reason why I get kind of annoyed for restarting with updates all the time with Linux is because I like to keep my Final Fantasy 14 game online, and I don't like to reboot. I don't like to update and reboot and reload the game again. Because there's a launcher, you gotta log into the launcher, then you gotta load up your character and then log into the server, and plus you gotta log into your Windows and you gotta reboot the system, not Windows, but Fedora or whatever. And it's just annoying to always constantly do that a lot. So Windows I find is good because Windows don't have as much update and updates less than it does with a lot of distributions with Linux. I'm not saying all distributions with Linux has a fast update cycle, but Fedora does. It's not as bad as Arch Linux, but it updates quite often. But having it on one or two computers is not too bad. But like, especially like if I don't play games on it, like I don't mind just restarting. But it's mainly my Final Fantasy 14 that kind of I just hate to reload the game up all the time. I just like to leave the game log in, and come back. I just log on my computer and just go on the game. Another thing is that you'd always change the resolution of my game, Final Fantasy 14, to it would resize it, and that was annoying as well. So I think Windows fits perfectly great for for what I use that computer for, is mainly just for gaming. So that computer will be good with Windows. This computer here does have Windows on the other hard drive, but I'm mainly probably going to be using Fedora 41. Now, I want to do a video before with Fedora 41. I got to say, like, the Fedora team did a fantastic job with Fedora 41. Like, I'm really impressed with it. I think this system works really well. It's very stable. I think this is like my favorite Linux ever. Like, I really like Fedora. I mean, I love Fedora for a long time. I just don't say it enough. But deep down inside, you guys know me. The name of my channel, Tux Hat, that came from me being a Fedora user, using Fedora system. And I've been using Fedora since the beginning, since 2003. I tried every single release that Fedora ever put out. I tested pretty much all the betas that they had released, and I always been I probably don't talk about it a lot, but I always had at least a computer running Fedora. I mean, there'd probably be a year that I didn't use Fedora much, but I still tested it out, but I just didn't use it or just uninstall it. And I'd be using Ubuntu some point before in the past. But for the most part, like, Fedora is my main distribution. I think it's always been polished. I think that it has a very good package manager. I do like RPM. I do like the DMF package manager. I think it's a very good one, especially DMF 5, pretty good. But the problem with that is Snapper. Now, the DMF plugin Snapper does not work. Like, it's supposed to auto snap when you install packages. It's supposed to auto snap packages with the plugin, Snapper plugin, but it doesn't do that. So I don't know. It stopped doing that since DMF 5. So if I do a sudo snapper list, it just doesn't show anything. If I go to my Btrfs assistant, it doesn't show anything. It doesn't. It's supposed to, but it doesn't. Also, I need to forgot to set up my my avatar for my system. There you go. Now it's good. So yeah, I really do like Fedora. I think it's a great distribution. I like Linux a lot. I will be testing out Fedora. I know, like, people think that I hate Linux. People think that I don't want to use Linux anymore, and I'm really am kind of fed up with it. But it's mainly the updates a lot. It updates, even though people say, oh, well, it's a rolling release or it's a semi-rolling release, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know, but still, it shouldn't update that much. It's too much updates. And I don't know why these Linux users like this so much. When, like, my generation, Linux users, we used to make fun of Windows. Like, we literally used to make fun of Windows back in the day for always updating and always have to reboot. your system all the time. It always had updates. Now, Windows barely ever have small updates all the time. They have big updates, and they do it like they roll it out every, like they have like a schedule, which is really nice. I think Fedora should have that same kind of ideal logic, because it's they make a release every 6 months. They should roll out big updates every so and so month. I know they have little small updates here and there, like every week, but it's annoying that I have to always restart the system to, apply these updates, and it's just frequency. Like it just happens so often. It's kind of annoying, and I know like the newer generation don't understand, but rebooting your system, updating and all that, that's very much like how Windows used to be. Like Linux is very much like Windows how it used to be. Actually, Microsoft probably learned from Linux users complaining about Windows, probably like saying it updates all the time. They probably fix it because of people complaining about it, especially the Linux users. Like the more you complain about an operating system, like, these developers, they listen. Like just because they work for Microsoft don't mean that they don't pay attention to the Linux things. They probably are interested in Linux and Mac OS and BSD and FreeBSD. Developers are nerds, they're people like us, probably even more geekier. And they listen. They pay attention to stuff like this. Programmers especially will pay attention to a lot of stuff with Linux. And they'll hear the Linux people complain about Windows, and that's why you'll see Windows change. And honestly, Windows is actually not bad. When it comes for the updates, it's really good, but Linux is pretty bad for that. Like if I go to software right now, look at that. Those are already updates. I hadn't even got to it yet. But there's a lot of updates. This happens frequently. It happens a lot. If I see, like I'm refreshing it, it's probably a lot more. It says 19 there. It's still 19. So, wait. Yeah, it's still 19. But it's a lot of good updates, which I'm going to do. But see, when you reply the update, it's going to pop this up. I mean, I know you have to reboot every time you do an update, but like, see, like restart an update. And it's gonna keep asking. It won't apply the updates if you don't restart the system. So, yeah. But anyways, I mean, I don't have to update all the time either. I don't have to check every time. It's just a habit with Arch Linux. But yeah, I do use Linux. I love Linux. I'm a fan of Linux. I'm a big fan of Fedora 41. I think Fedora is a really good system. I think the release is great. I think the team needs to fix the plugin for Snapper, unless there's other programs that I can use that Fedora uses that we don't have to use Snapper. Like if there's any other like program that I can use to do snapshots with ButterFS on Fedora that Fedora like mainly use, or Red Hat, let me know, because Snapper's completely broken to me. Anyways, guys, until next time, I'll be doing more videos. I just want to say that I miss Fedora 41. I deleted it yesterday because when I install Windows will take the EFI, and if it sees like Fedora has one already, so it'll basically just put their EFI on that disk, which will give my Fedora, my Windows disk won't have an EFI. So if I delete, let's say, Fedora, my Windows won't boot. So I have to create a boot loader EFI for Windows with this part and do a BCD boot to put back my bootloader for Windows. So that's why I just reinstall my Fedora right now, so that both systems have their own EFI bootloader, so they both can boot up on its own without relying on this EFI. It has its own. So yeah. Anyways, I'm just ranting here, but yeah, this is my system. It gets the built-in, like, what another thing I noticed. Oops, I don't want to do that. Another thing I noticed with Fedora, they have like app indicator, like, built in with the system. So that was pretty cool, and I used that, which is cool. Maybe it's not like that. Maybe it's just part of my configuration .files that probably put that in there. But anyways, yeah, it works really well. I find this works better than what GNOME. GNOME has like status icons. I find that doesn't work as good as app indicator. And yeah, I like to have a system tray. I really rely on it a lot. Desktop icons, I don't really care too much for that. I did say, like, I like to see mounted drives, but like having the mounted drives on the dock with Dash to dock, I think this is very convenient, and have a trash bin, that's what I use the desktop icons a lot for, is mounted drives and the trash bin. So having it on the Dash to dock, I think is very convenient. It's more cleaner. So I like this a lot. Like this desktop here with the Blur My Shell and Dash to dock, I think having these two extensions and app indicator, 3 extensions, makes GNOME actually a really fully functional desktop. And I hate that I have to use GNOME tweaks to put my maximize and minimize button back. Come on, GNOME, give us back our maximize and minimize button, okay? Stop taking them out. I want them back. Just put them back by default. Give us a system tray, blur your nice top bar, and have your dash visible with a mounted drives that are mounted and trash bin. You can do this. Integrate it into the system. Ubuntu does it. Come on, Fedora. Why don't you do it? I don't think that the vanilla GNOME experience is that great. Some people may like it, but to me personally, I prefer this style desktop. Anyways, guys, have a good one. Cheers.